Good morning, afternoon and evening, my crazies. My name's Angela. I'm the Crazy Poppy Lady and welcome back to video number 2 of the Jackie Jumps Jumper. I love to give myself tongue twister names for patterns. Alright, so today we are taking the panels that you have made, which were the front and the back. We're joining them together at the shoulder seam, doing a little bit of a cheeky tweak for the side seams. Then we will be, of course, adding on our sleeves, finishing off that cheeky cuff, and then doing the border on the neck. Now, I have been very cheeky with this one to cut down the length of time this video is. What I'm doing is I'm just visiting the areas that you physically will need that are being changed. So just like I did with the neck section. Now, if you've just come across this video, there is another one that is linked in the I button above, which is video number 1, and there is also a link to the written pattern, which is over on the Ravelry shop. Okay, so come on, grab your hook, grab your yarn, grab your whip, and let's get going. Right, so now is the fun bit. It's a time to join our pieces together. What you want to do is lay them out one on top of the other and have the right sides facing each other. So that means that we will be working a seam on the inside of our work. Right, so what you also want to do is grab a couple of stitch markers and join the other panel at the first and the last stitch. Make sure that you count along both sections to ensure that, of course, the seam will be of an identical number and will be nice and straight. Okay, and then we'll get on with this first one that I've already done and I'll be showing you how to do it now. Right, so let's get going. I've left my yarn attached, of course, to the last single crochet that I did. So now what we're going to do, going to find the very first single crochet and we are going to go into the stitch. Now, some people like to do the back loop method where you just collect both of the back loops and then you'll come in and slip stitch. Others will prefer to sew their work, but it does depend, of course, on the yarn that you're using. Now, the yarn that I've used for this one is a floofy yarn. Okay, and I've noticed that when I go to sew it, it felt a lot easier than other yarns. Okay, so if you've chosen to use a standard, say, DK weight yarn or even the cotton, this bit you could easily sew up nice, quick and easy. But if, like me, you have used the Signet boho or even the mandala version of this, then of course you're going to have to follow this method and it works really nicely. So pick up the back loop of the front and the back panel and slip stitch together, and we're just going to do that all the way and down the front and the back sleeved section of the panels. And I'll show you what it looks like once we're done. So of course we can turn it inside out at this point and you can see that that is what your join will look like. Okay, so it's nice, it's quite a nice hidden one. Now if you have got a lot more fabric and or you don't feel that this is quite the method, of course you can just go directly under and both stitches, and again we'll slip stitch it closed. I'll do a few of those so you can see the difference. Okay, so there's your first, which was the back loop only, and that's going through both of them. Now they visually, the only real difference is that the going through both does cut down the width a little bit on this margin, and it does actually make it pop out a little bit more. You can feel it more, but again the choice is yours. So I'm going to rip that back, do the method I prefer on mine, and I will meet you back here in a few moments once you get to the end of the first section of the front panel. Right, so once you have gone, of course, across your shoulder section, you are then going to work a slip stitch all of the way along till you meet up with your second shoulder section. I need to put my teeth back in, and I will meet you back here in a few moments once you've, of course, slip stitched all the way along. Right, so now I'm back with you because I've got up to this next shoulder section. So one stitch to go. I'm so thankful I did the marker trick. Right, okay, so now what we're going to do is you are going to join this shoulder the same as you did the other shoulder with whichever method you have chosen to do. I of course have chosen just to be lazy and go through both. Okay, and we're going to carry on working along this row now with our slip stitch method, making sure that of course you pick up all the areas of the stitch that you need to on both the front and the back panel. Right, I'm going to argue with this because of course I can't see it when it's sitting in front of the camera as easily as I can when I pull it closer to me. So I will meet you back here in a moment when you get to the end of the row. Alright, so I'm up to the last stitch. And of course I'm going to be doing the slip stitch. I'm slip stitching through both of them. Now I'm just going to hook over 2 times, pull up enough to sew in and cut off my end. Okay, now the next section we're going to need to do is the side panels, and we're going to sew those up from the base and work our way up. This is where you need to get your next measurement for your sleeve, okay, to ensure that your arm's going to fit. So make sure you check the written pattern or of course the notes that you've made prior to making this jumper. Now it's time to work onto the seam and the gap for your arm. Now what I'm going to do with this pattern is I'm actually going to run a single crochet up the side of this panel. So for each row of double crochet I'm going to be placing in 2 single crochets, and I'm going to do that all of the way up one side, up and over, and then all the way back down. I'm going to do that for 2 rows total on both sides. Okay, I will show you what that looks like in a few minutes once it's done. I have joined my yarn on the right side of my base panel facing me, and I've placed 1 single crochet into the same place as where the slip stitch section of our foundation double crochet sits. I have then placed two more single crochets into where, of course, the double crochet section of that is represented. And now I'm working 2 single crochets for each row going up, and it's a case of placing them in and spacing them as evenly as I possibly can. Right, I will meet you at the top in a moment. Right, now we're working over the seam. All you're going to do there, of course, is place a single crochet into the top of each of the single crochet rows. We're going to sneak one in along the seam and then place a single crochet in the last stitch. Okay, so in total you should have 3 stitches along that seam, and now it's a case of carrying on with single crochets, 1 for the top of the single crochet row, and then of course 2 for every double crochet row. I'll meet you at the bottom. Now it's time to work out the depth of your underarm hole. Okay, now as you can see here, I have marked my center stitch, so I've made sure that all of these stitches are aligned, starting at the bottom and working my way all the way up the top, and that is my center stitch there. Okay, so working from the top, counting down, you need, if you're lucky and you've got skinny arms, you need a stitch count of 38 on each side. Once you've counted down, place a couple of a stitch marker in the 38th stitch and then a couple more down here just to support it for a few moments while you of course try it on. If it's too awkward and you need a bit more room, just remove a couple of the stitch markers. Okay, do it in groups of 2. Okay, because when it comes to doing the arms, we can correct any oversize as we go along. Oh, that sounded posh, didn't it? Okay, so once you have got your 36 stitches on both sides of the fabric marked out and joined together, meet me back here for joining the main section of the seam. Now is time to join both panels together, so pop your hook back in. And what we're going to do is we are going to just chain 1 to give us a bit of movement, and then we are going to place our hook through the top of the first single crochet on each of the panels, making sure in my case that I am picking up both parts of the V, or of course you can do the same method you did for your shoulder join. The choice is all yours. Right, so once you've got them, do the join the same as you did on the shoulder, working all the way up to of course your stitch marker, keeping your stitch nice and even as you work along. I'm going to go off camera and concentrate because I can't talk and work at the same time at the moment. As you can see, I'm having issues on camera. So that is a slip. In my case, I'm running a slip stitch through both pieces of fabric, keeping my slip stitch the same size as the top of the single crochets that I've been working into. That way it means when it goes through the wash, it is less likely to shrink on you. Right, I will meet you back here when you get up to that stitch marker. Right, so you have worked your seam all the way up. We're now going to work around onto the arm. So what you're going to do is a chain 1, turn your work the right way round. Okay, so it's the right side facing you again. I did that little bit off camera. I'm a little bit sneaky. Right, now we are going to place a double crochet into each one of the single crochets going up and around the shoulder and then back down the back of our top. Okay, nice, quick and simple. Right, I will meet you back here in a few moments once you get to the top of the shoulder section, just so I can walk you through that area. Right, so now we're working along the top. Now you shouldn't have any issues with this section at all, because of course you've already put in your round of single crochets. I just wanted to show you what this top section looked like once you're done. Okay, so your work will look something like that. Now remember, as it gets worn and stuff, this area will relax anyway into the appropriate shape. But there we go, that is what the top section looks like. I will meet you when you get down to the armpit section. Now we are going to join to the top of our first double crochet with a slip stitch. Then you're going to chain one. Now this chain does not count at any point. We are going to pop a decrease into the next 2 stitches. So to do that, you hook over and you do half a double crochet and then you hook over again and then into the next one, pull up your loop, hook over and pull through and stop. And then when you've got all 3 loops on your hook, you're going to hook over and pull through the first. Then we're going to work our way all the way around, and I'll meet you back here in a bit. When you get close to the edge, do not work those last 2 stitches. Right, so we are coming up to the end of the row now. This is basically your stitch placement for all of your decrease rows. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to do a double crochet decrease. So you're going to hook over, pop your hook through your stitch, pull up a loop, 3 stitches on your hook, hook over, pull through 2 and stop. Now we're going to hook over, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, hook over, pull through 2 and stop. You'll have 3 stitches on your hook. You're going to hook over and pull through all 3 stitches. Okay, so to close off the round, we will then go into our first stitch and a slip stitch to close. Now you can take your marker out and pop it to one side, or hold it because you're going to need it in a few seconds. You are then going to chain 1 and turn your work. So now you're working on the opposite side of the fabric to what you was a few moments ago. Okay, so then we are going to hook over, and we're going to do a cheat decrease, gang. We're cheating on this one. We're going to hook over and we are going to pop our hook to the side of that decrease that you've just made. You're going to pop your hook in there and just do a double crochet. Okay, and then grab your stitch marker and mark the top of that stitch, because you'll be working into that at the end of this round. So that is it. We're just going to now double crochet all the way along until, of course, you get to the placement for your decrease, which is all the way around and just here. So you want to make sure that your 2 stitches from the end, and when you get to the 2 stitches, that's when you decrease, and you repeat this whole pattern process that I've just shown you. There will be, of course, a timestamp in the description box down below, so you can click it at the end of each round. I'll meet you back here in a little bit once you have done the amount of rows that you need. Now your stitch count will also be decreasing by 2 for each round, and the decreases sit on the underarm seam, so they won't be seen. Right, so if you're following along with the pattern for the same size as me, you will keep decreasing until you have 54 stitches remaining. Once you get to that magic number of 54, close off that row, and now we're going to start onto just rows upon rows of a double crochet. So to do this one, we are chaining 2, and we're going to count that as our very first stitch. We're going to then turn our work, okay, and just double crochet into the next available double crochet space and work all the way around. Okay, I will meet you when you get to the end of the round. Remember, your stitch count at this point will be, or should be, 54. Now with this section of the sleeve, this is where you can choose where you want to finish it off and place your cuff. So keep going until you get to the desired length minus about an inch, okay, or should I say the depth of 2 rows. Okay, so minus that depth from the length that you require for the sleeve length that you want. So of course you could stop it above the elbow, you could stop it midway between your elbow about here, you could stop it at your wrist so that the extra section comes over your hand. The choice is of course up to you, and I can't wait to see what length you decide to choose. Whatever it is, I will meet you back here shortly once you have gone around and round and round and round and round, remembering of course at the beginning to chain 2 and rotate your work. So each row you're working on the opposite side. That means then that you will have this ridge effect that will carry on throughout your sleeve, which then also matches the back panel of your work. If you don't, then it becomes very flat. Now it's time for the cuff section. So for the cuff section, you've of course slip stitched to the first. We are now going to jump in and pop a single crochet in the very first stitch. You're going to skip 2 and in the third place a double crochet and another one. In total you're going to put 5 double crochets into this same spot. Okay, then you are going to skip 2 and place a single crochet in the next stitch, and that is your pattern repeat all the way through. So that is skip 2 and then place 5 double crochets, better known as a shell, into the next stitch, skip 2 and a single crochet. You do that all the way around. I will meet you when you get to your last shell placement. Okay, so here we are coming up to the end of our row. If you notice, there is only 4 stitch placements remaining before we get to that very first single crochet. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook over. We are going to skip our 2 as normal and place in 5 double crochets. Then we're going to slip stitch to the top of the very first stitch in the round to close it off. Alright, so now it's time for round number 2. Now this one's a little bit cheeky. We are chaining 2, and then into that single crochet you are going to place another 2 double crochets. So in total you will have a chain 2 and 2 double crochets. Now we're going to skip over. We are going to find the 3rd double crochet in our shell, pop our hook in and do a single crochet into the top of that, then hook over into our single crochet on the bottom of the row. You're going to place 5 double crochets, then of course we're skipping back up to that 3rd double crochet in our shell and do a single crochet, skip back down to the single, that's right, do 5 double crochet. Okay, so you've got the pattern in your head now. I will meet you when you're getting close to the end of this round. There we go. Yeah, so when you get to this shell here, the book, pop back and I'll tell you how to join your round. Now for round number 2 we are going to chain 2 and place 2 more double crochets into that chain 1 space. Then we are going to find the 3rd double crochet in our shell, pop our hook through and slip stitch to it, hook over, place 5 double crochets into the single crochet, then skip to the 3rd double crochet and a slip stitch in, and that is our repeat all the way around this row. So that is 5 double crochets into the single crochet from the row below, and then slip stitch to the top of the 3rd double crochet in your shell cluster. I will meet you when you get back to here. So here we are just about to anchor down the last full shell stitch. Of course we've anchored that into the top of our 3rd double crochet. Now hook over and going back into the single crochet, you're going to add another 2 double crochets. Okay, so once you've done those 2, then we're going to slip stitch to the top of the chain 2 to complete the shell. Okay, now is for a bit that you either do want to include or don't want to include. Some people love this stitch, others absolutely loathe it, and it is the crab stitch. Now the crab stitch is worked in reverse along your pattern. Okay, so it does take a little while to get your head around it if you've never done it before. I will try it and go slow. So we're chaining 1 to start with. Okay, we're going to place our hook in the 2nd chain from the loop going backwards. Okay, you're going to hook over, pull your yarn up, hook over and pull through both. Okay, it looks a bit messy to start off with, but once it's got a few stitches in, it will look a lot neater. So again, we're going to bring our hook back a stitch, place our yarn through, hook over, pull up and complete the stitch. So go back a stitch, hook over, pull up 2 loops on your hook, hook over, pull through 2 and you're done. Okay, we're just going to do that into each stitch all the way along, Okay, going all the way up and all the way and down our shell stitch until we get right back to the beginning again. Now of course there will be a timestamp that is in the description box down below that will take you back to how to do this, explaining it. I'm not 100% if I've got a video on this as yet on the channel. If I have, of course, I will place that in the I button. So always make sure that you check the I button just on the off chance that I've got something in there that shows it a lot closer. So let me say it to you again. You bring your hook back one stitch, pop it through, pull up your yarn, hook over and pull through both loops on your hook, just as if you were doing a single crochet. As I said, the main difference is where of course your hook goes, so it always goes back one stitch. But once it's done, it gives you a lovely neat border, as you can see here, or neat-ish border. Once that you get it perfect, it looks absolutely stunning. And of course, because it gives a solidness to the edge of it, it means when you're putting your jumper on and off, you haven't got to worry about any fingernails getting caught or anything else getting caught on this edging. Because of course, I'm bound to catch something in these stitches if it was me. Right, I will meet you back here shortly to show you how to finish off this round. Okay, so we're coming up on the last couple of stitches for the crab stitch. Okay, what I like to do is I just go into the very first stitch one time, pull up the yarn, okay, and then finish off as I would normally do. So let me show you that again. She says trying to find her crab stitch. Okay, so a last one is go back into the first crab stitch, pull up your yarn, put a hook straight through as if you're doing a slip stitch, hook over twice if you wish, depending on how you do your knots. If you want to knot, scoot that down, and then of course cut off your yarn and hide your end. Right, so here we are. That was the very last stitch there. So what we're going to do now is tie off our yarn. So you're going to pop your hook through the very first stitch, pull it up, slip stitch through, okay, and then tie off your yarn in your normal way. And then what you can do is you can thread underneath, you can sew underneath this edge really easily to hide your yarn. Whether you want to go that way or the other, the choice is yours. But there we go, that is what your edging will look like once it's finished. And yeah, I undid my first attempt and went for a second. Now it's time to just repeat all of the previous steps on the other sleeve. Now, as I stated in video number 1, there was issues when it came to recording this video because my main computer decided to give up. So I had lost a couple of little bits. Now, the lost section of this video was in fact the edging around the neck. Okay, so I'm just going to have to talk you through it with it sitting here on Dory. I joined my yarn at the shoulder seam with a slip stitch. Okay, then I did a single crochet coming all the way down and to the section between the V. Okay, so it was the same scenario as on the side seam, so it was 2 single crochets for each double crochet row. When I got down to the bottom here, I'd also worked along that very first stitch on that first row, and I put one more, a sneaky one, into the stitch that was separating so that it holds it quite nicely there. Okay, so you had the panel coming up as normal, so it had 2 coming down the panel and then 1 into that cheeky stitch. And then I worked the same scenario all the way up to the other side. Okay, slip stitched to join, turned, chained 1, and then worked the crab stitch all the way back down and all the way around. Okay, when I got to the end, I fastened it off as I had done on the cuffs. Sorry about that. I was hoping to show you, but it was complete and I couldn't undo it because I'd sewn everything in. Congratulations, you're finished. Right, that is it for me for today. Now, please remember, if you have made this pattern, make sure you leave me a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget that thumbs up. It really does help as well. And make sure you click that bell and subscribe and do all that lovely, nice stuff that's free. Okay, and don't forget, send me a photograph of your finished jumper. It would be lovely to know what yarn you chose and what hook you chose, and were there any modifications, or did you go larger, did you go smaller? Right, that would be lovely if you could pop that all into the email so that I can show off not only your photo but tell people what you did that was slightly different so that the jumper fitted you, and I will show that on a future Whips, Bits and Chat. Right, that is it for me for today. I will see you all really soon, so please remember, stay chilled, stay happy and keep crafting. Goodbye everybody.